Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk about when to take a stand and when not to take a stand. And trust me, I'm with you on this, that there is so much in the world today that is so appalling. You know, how do we deal with that? What can we do about it? So this is my philosophy behind it, and it may or may not work for you, but what I believe is when the fight comes to my doorstep physically or it comes to me energetically, then it's mine to handle in a direct way. Now take Jason, for instance. The fight came to him. The dude's just doing his thing, right? Doing his research, collecting the stuff, presenting his data, and the fight came to him, and he's handling it in his very male, very warrior-esque way, you know, and really very true to him. Now that would never work for me. That wouldn't work for probably a lot of people, but it certainly wouldn't work for me because I am dealing with feminine energies and feminine power, and it's a different kind of power. It's not in your face, boom, up against stuff necessarily. You know, the feminine energies powers are working in a different way, and we can negate the energies of the world. We can negate the things, the lies, the distortions, the manipulations in a very different way that is just as powerful, just different. So let me explain. You know, when I say that when it comes to our doorstep, something happens in your life and there is an injustice that happens to you directly, I see that as a call to action. I see that as, wow, that appeared in my world. It appeared in my projection of my situation, of my life for a reason. There's nothing that happens to us for naught. There's nothing that happens to us by accident or by mistake. It all's for a reason. So if it comes right to my doorstep, then there's a reason why it did that. If it doesn't, this is what I do, and this is how I help to prepare myself if one day it does come, but also to lend my energetic powers to the people that I feel like are maybe doing that work, and to just the energetic imbalances as a whole. So this is what my thing is, all right? To bring light to a situation. To bring light is literally to bring light in, right? Because when the negative powers that be in this world are working in darkness, and they want to pull humanity into that dark realm, into that realm where they can't see, they have the blinders on, and they think that they're just these physical bodies, and they think they're just mortal beings and everything, and victim by everything, and they need a savior, they need somebody to come in and rescue them because they're very disempowered. So we see a lot of disempowerment happening right now, and we're going to go into a specific one of those in just a few minutes. But yes, this big disempowerment happens because it's keeping people in the dark of who they really are. Creator gods in the making. You know, that's what I believe. That's what I'm sticking with. Anyway, so bringing light into a situation literally is opening up the channels of light that can come in, and they will do the work for you. You know, light can cast out darkness, right? You go to a closet, you open the door, light comes in the closet. Darkness doesn't come out of it. You let light do its work by being a prepared channel, a prepared vessel, open and available to light come through you. So what I do when I'm feeling like, if I'm listening to something on the radio, I rarely listen to news anymore for obvious reasons, because it can be very disrupting. But I will from time to time to see how neutral I can be about it. It's a little test of me. You know, when I feel my dander getting up about something, about a certain political candidate, and believe me, both of them, everything out there is one to get your dander up. You know, then I think, okay, I've got some work to do. What is it in me that's bothering me? What is it when I see somebody, you know, flipping off about whatever kind of issue thing, and I think, oh my God, holy moly, what an idiot. You know, they are so in the dark about that. If they only knew. Well, me going on the attack and reacting to it isn't the place I want to be in with it. So when I have this happen and in my own heart I'm feeling this disruption, When I have some quiet time, I'm going to dive into that. I'm going to dive into that feelings in that scenario. And I will do, this is my thing, it's called repatterning. And I will repattern it in my own mind, in my own imagination, which is a one of our super divine powers is imagination. So I'll go in my own imagination and I'll picture that scenario out, and I'll picture it and I'll picture it, and I'll play different roles until I can play the highest and cleanest role with it. Let me give you a really interesting example. Years ago, I was part of a spiritual community for about 7 years, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. But we used to have dinners together at called the Lodge every night, well, Monday through Fridays. And we would pitch in on the weekends, especially. We'd come in and we'd pitch in and we'd help make meals. Well, one day I was in there pitching and helped make a meal. And I took my rings off, and there was a really beautiful ring my mother had given me, and I left that in the kitchen. Well, I went back the next morning and it was gone. And I was asking the main cook there, I'm like, well, what happened to my ring? And she's like, well, I don't know what happened to it. I'm like, oh, no one's going to take it here. This is just really crazy. Where did it go to? Well, I don't know if it was that night or a couple nights later, I had this dream. And I had this dream that one of the little girls in part of the community came up to me, and she was wearing my mother's ring. And when I first in the dream, I got really pissed off, and I was like, where did you get that? Did you take that? Why would you take a ring that was in there? That's not your ring. And so I got upset, and then I was like, all right, that's not the place to be with it. And I just kind of worked it through in my own imagination that I got to a place where I would go, and I would give her the ring. Do you know what happened the very next morning? I was passing through the kitchen, and that little girl came up. What did she have on her finger? She had that ring on her finger. So what did I do? I was totally prepared. I was like, sweetie, where did you get that? She's like, well, the cook gave it to me. I'm like, well, she did know what happened. She gave it away. I'm like, well, that's interesting. It looks very pretty on you. And she said, oh, and she just loved it. I'm like, you know what? That was my ring. And I could see her whole countenance just dropping. Like, you know what? My mother gave me that ring. And, it looks so good on you. I would love for you to have that ring. And she just lit up. It was a beautiful experience. And what I was able to handle in that way is because I dealt with an internal upset in a dream, no less. Most of the times it's not dreaming, it's just me, having a reaction to something that I want to work out within my own self so I can handle it in case it came into my physical world. In this case, it came right in. So that's what I feel like is being a light warrior, is being prepared for something that's going to potentially come in, even if it doesn't come into our sphere. We're prepared, and we've added our light into the mix. Because, we're all connected. We're all connected. My energy goes into the big mix, and it tips the balance one way or the other. It keeps everything entrenched in this reactive state of pitting people against people and in the dark, or my energy comes in and is part of the light force that comes into this creation. That's how I work as a woman. That's how I work with my feminine energies. So today I want to talk about, I'm going to go right at something that actually really bothers me. And I had to work through some things, and I did a video about it just to try to bring some light into the situation. And that's part of the woke versus the awake thing that's going on right now. And if there was ever anything, the opposite and the reverse of live, evil, it would be what's going on with that agenda. It's a completely disempowering agenda, especially for our youth. And I want to talk about gender identity with that. I'll tell you why. This whole thing on, and we see it all over the internet. Just the other day, I was looking at my feed, and there was a TikTok or something in there, and there was this really beautiful young gal dressed up like all this little makeup and fairy sparkles everywhere. And she's like, I'm a pixie, and if you can't handle me being a pixie, I'm da. And then my friend's a tricksie, and and it's like, oh my God, there's another whole category. There's pixies and trixies. Can't keep up with this stuff. And, it's part of the craziness that's going on right now that needs some weight on the other side. And I've seen more and more videos of people that are standing up and they are speaking up against this whole woke thing, this whole gender thing, the craziness behind it, the craziness and the destructiveness about it. and they're speaking up. And I think, I mean, I don't know what happened initially, but certainly people caved in. Certainly there was a lot of people that were really scared about staying in their truth, the truth of reality that, you know, it's biological. There's only, you know, 2 sets of chromosomes. Hello, from there, maybe a lot of things can spin, but you're born one way or the other. You know, count me, you know, you may think that this is very unpopular. Well, actually, my audience I'm talking to isn't going to think that, but people will think this is so un-PC. But, you know, it's time we stop trying to be PC and politically correct, and we start just speaking truth. You know, truth within us, truth if it comes to us, truth outward. So I'm prepared. I've prepared myself on my channel. If I get a backlash of people coming to me, well, you know, you're always talking about men and women. There's a lot of other derivations from it. In my world, what I grew up in, it was boys and girls, men and women together, and then you're either gay and you have an alternative choice. You know, it wasn't all this confusing stuff going on. I speak about men and women because that's my experience. I am purely heterosexual woman. If I were to go ahead and speak about the gay experience, it would be a complete fabrication because I don't know it. Now, I venture to say that the wisdom wisdom's wisdom, right? Relationships are relationship. They'll have different spins depending on who each person is individually, but as a whole, you know, I think there's just certain issues. So if somebody has an alternative, or I shouldn't even say alternative, that's probably stinking PC. If somebody has a different bent besides, you know, preferences beside men and women with each other, good on you, and you're absolutely welcome on this channel. Everybody's safe here, you know, but just, this is how I talk. And you can insert whatever you want in if you have a different preferences. But I'm coming from my place of experience and my place of authenticity. So anyways, who cares about PC there? I don't care about that, but I've worked it through. I've worked through what my responses would be with it and what energy I want to hold with it. A while back, I made a video called Little Box or Tiny Box People. Little Box People, Tiny Box People, something like that. And it was my way of actually trying to make a light of this whole thing where kids are being driven so early into making these choices. There's more and more choices, and every choice they make, they paint themselves into a smaller, tinier little box. You know, I'm a blue Trixie now, I'm a pink Trixie, you know, it's so disempowering because anybody that comes in and challenges that little box, they come unglued with it. You know, it's so disempowering. I've said that probably 20 times, but it is. It's just very disempowering. You know, it's not helping youth to really step out into a big world with a lot of different people, and going to be a lot of people feeling one way or the other, and they're not going to be so concerned with your delicate little baby feelings about something, are they? You know, in this world, there's a certain toughness that you have to have, certain ability you have to function, to work in the business mode, all the things that is part of the old world. You know, that's not going to boom disappear in one day. It's going to slowly retreat and something new is going to emerge from it. So my generation that is part of that old world, you know, we're to bridge that gap, and we can't bridge that gap by shaming, by reacting and reacting to the darkness. We need to bring light and reasonableness and understanding into it, and common stinking sense into the whole paradigm. It's not even a paradigm, it's an agenda. So, for example, I want to talk a little bit about when I was growing up, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, and some of you younger, you know, this is how it was. When I was a little girl, and what would be the problem now if I was a little girl nowadays, what could happen? When I was a little girl, I distinctly remember it was very weird that I was considered a girl, because I was just me. I didn't feel either way. I didn't feel boy or girl. I loved to rough and tumble with my older brother. I loved to, you know, do wrestling matches and do all these fun things with the neighborhood boys and climb trees and just being this free, energetic spirit. And I also loved my dolls. Now, I wasn't drawn to baby dolls. I never had that mothering bone in this body. That's not part of this incarnation, but I love to dress them up in fashion. And I had the best clothes because I had this Italian mother dressmaker who made my doll clothes. And oh my God. So as a little girl, all the seeds were there of being Elisa in her maturity. And one of those was adornment, as adorning my dolls in beauty. And I love that. And then I love to go rough and tumble. Had I been a little girl right now, and I may have mentioned to my parents, I don't feel like I'm a boy or a girl, I'm just me. Oh, or a teacher got wind of that. Even worse yet, a teacher got wind of it. Radar, put me in a slot, and oh my gosh, she's gender neutral. She is, I don't even know what all the names are, and I don't even care to know, but there's probably 20 different names that I could be slotted into because I really didn't care if I was a boy or girl. I didn't feel one way or the other. Well, as I grew older, I accepted this incarnation. It took a while to accept that, this very feminine nature and how to work with it and embracing it, and learning the lessons from being a female, learning the lessons of dealing with feminine energies. So when I got a little bit older, who was my first crush? My first crush was on the neighborhood little girl. I loved her. I mean, I didn't just love her, like her. I loved her. I am all these little budding little feelings and little tingles. I had all of that when I was around her. And oh my gosh, I just wanted to have a sleepover with her. As little girls do, we play little games and maybe scratch each other's backs, rub each other's backs. And oh my God, I was just over the moon excited. Well, that lasted for just a little bit, and then that went away, and lo and behold, I grew up to be a heterosexual woman. I have no problem if I wasn't, then I wouldn't be. If I had another preference, I don't. I love men. I'm drawn to men. I'm sexually attracted to men. That's my jam. But early on, there was this first budding that came out with, another little girl. And I'm not a psychologist, but I know in psychology books, they talk about these early on infatuations can be with the same sex. And then you outgrow it or you don't outgrow it, or you go into, you have a different path with it. But let kids, give them the space to express that and to figure that out for themselves. They don't need to have any kind of labels or boxes put on us. None of us need to do that, ever have those labels and boxes put on us. But especially when we're little like that, when it comes to our sexuality, which is a foundational building block of our creativity, our potency, our connection to the divine, our ability to work in the world, is all rooted in our sexual identity and the sexual energies. And that's being screwed with big time. Now, that may never come into my field. It may never be an issue, but I lend my energies. I know how I feel about it. I know what my stand is. I know that it's not a reactive. I want to bring some little light into it, like I did with the little short video, Tiny Box People. What I did is it's like laughing. It's just, what this is I see you. You are these immortal beings playing really, really small. You are choosing to put yourself in tighter constrictions. So I ask you, how does that feel? Does that work for you? If you need to explore that and live in that for a period of time, well, do that. No judgies here. But someday you may want to break out of that, and you may want to have a bigger sense of identity. You may want more freedom in your life. You may not want to feel so victimized and react against every little thing that's a perceived threat to you. I have no threats. Now, if somebody threatens in my life, well, that's like a different matter, but all the rest, it's just, I am the creator of my life. You are the creator of your life. Younger generation, they need to know this, and we need to set this example and not shame about what's happening, because they're really being victimized. They're being controlled by these other agendas that want to create a weak humanity. They want to create a weak human tribe, they want to separate out the sexes. They want to confuse the sexes, actually. I'm sorry, not separate out. They want to confuse the sexes. So it's all like confused. Take the masculine, make it smaller and smaller, and disempower the masculine. That's the warriors. My interview with Jason, he was talking about there's certain times in histories where the warrior spirit was there as the protectors and needed to take the front row. There's other times when it was used in a toxic way and it was there to wipe out everything else and push a different agenda that wasn't about protection, it was about control and domination. But there's the male warrior, beautiful thing. Men have to have testosterone for it. They got to have balls for it. Excuse me, but they do in all sense of the word. And then there's like the feminine energies. And if the feminine energies are so delicate and can be so easily manipulated. And so little girls, you have got power as being a little girl. And, I just love to see both little girls and little boys grow up into these, powerful beings and separate beings. And with all the nuances that come, you love who you want, dress how you want with that, but don't forget that you are an immortal. Don't let yourself be put in a little box. I still even did this day. I did another video, big box people, because every time, it's so insidious on this planet that every time I feel like I broke free. Boom, I'm out of the box. That was the big box. Lo and behold, a little while later, it's like, I've got other limiting beliefs. Until I can really transcend this reality, until maybe I can really wake up to being, like our beloved brother, Yeshua, who demonstrated to us the innate, beautiful abilities and powers inherent in being a child of God, which we are. And he said, you are, and you can do these things too. I would love to be able to do that stuff in this life because it's freedom. It's not doing the acts of healing people, which would be incredible, walk on water, whatever, translocate, all these things. Oh, how cool. Fly. Oh, how cool. But it's not the goal. The goal around it is ultimate freedom. Ultimate freedom for us on this planet. We got a long ass way to go for that. But we're on our path with it. I feel like we're a very young creation, a very young, experiment and projection into this three-dimensionality. Some people have a different focus on it. Jason will have his way of approaching and saying, I have my way of approaching it. They don't contradict each other. They are just a different perspective with it. But basically, underneath it all, we're saying the same things. We're just coming from a different viewpoint. And we need to allow that with each other. So here it is. Today's message is really about preparation. Preparing yourself by doing the internal work of addressing the things that really bother you, addressing the wrongs that are happening in this world, and getting yourself right with it. When you get yourself right with it, then maybe it does come to your doorstep, because by God, in this world, we need people being balanced and stepping up to the plate and shining light into a situation. And maybe it never does, but you have contributed something to the light team, the team of reality, the awake team, not the woke team, Ooh. Anyway, so we want to empower. My job, I want to empower you to step in that position. I want to share some little tidbits here of stuff that I've learned, some of the wisdom that I've garnered from this life experience because of the nature of who I am. I'm speaking up about it. I'm no problem speaking up against woke, or not, I shouldn't say against, about the woke situation. About this whole fear and this whole sensitivity, this whole cultural appropriation. To me, that's just another subject, but it's along the exact same line. It's just disempowering people because it's separating people out. We're one world. Some cultural trait, was it really their culture? It's like the whole braid thing. Ancient Vikings braided their hair back. So is that cultural appropriation? No, I want to put my hair in braids, I'm going to put my hair in braids. If I want to wear a big hat that looks like a sombrero, well, cool. If somebody wants to wear white woman culture things, you go for it. I don't care. We're all one. We've had many different incarnations, and in those incarnations, we've been many different things. This skin suit this time is white and female. Trust me, I've had very different other ones. You've had very different other ones. So, but let's work with what we have right now, and let's work with, I came into this world in this body, in this vehicle, and it's for me to learn the lessons about that. And so I'm focusing in on that instead of trying to be and wanting to be something else. I'm not that something else. I am me. And this is what's been given to me. This is what I've chosen. It's been given to me as a physical being, but it's been what's chosen for me by my higher self for very specific reasons. Anyway, so that is my talk today, and I'd love to have your comments on it, and I hope that it's empowering. I guess I should do the little thing I always forget to do, but if you like, subscribe to the Rebel Crone. Make sure you hit that little bell, and that's going to be your notification, so when a new video comes out, you will be notified of that. I welcome comments. And so please comment from that place of speaking, from your higher self, from a place of your wisdom or your questions with it. Tearing down, that's just not cool. That's not what this channel is about. This is not what my world's about. This is not what I'm creating is about for anybody else. It's a safe place to speak our mind. If it's different, we'll just speak it, say what it's different. Cool. But you don't have to make somebody else wrong just so you can be right. If you feel that way, you're out of balance. Let's get off that measuring stick of this and this and this. Let's come to that higher point in between, and let's allow the conversations and our feeling realms, our thoughts, our projections to come from that place. Everything will balance out accordingly if we all do that. So much love to you all, and this is the Rebel Crone signing out. Peace in.